Who doesn't want to be successful, wealthy, popular, fulfilled in our careers, our social lives, and our romantic lives, and in everything we do? And how often do we get frustrated because we're falling short? Sometimes it's down to things outside of our control, like circumstances, or plain bad luck. But all too often, the only thing left to blame is ourselves and the decisions we make. So, let's get better at living and find out how to make better decisions. Number 1. Know what motivates you. Before you start making big decisions, ask yourself, what do you want from life? Because making choices before you know that is like navigating without a map or even a destination. Do you want a nice house, financial security, and a family? Or do you want a life filled with adventure? Do you want to earn big bucks working crazy hours? Or are you happy with less income but more time off? Is it dumb to spend a big chunk of your income on travel like your older relatives tell you? Or is it the best thing you could possibly do with your life, like your Facebook feed says? There's no right or wrong answer. It all depends on what you want from life. Figure that out first and let it be your guide toward the choices that are right for you. Number 2. Ask yourself, is it a big decision or a small one? Let's take a life hack from the world's wealthiest person, Jeff Bezos. We're sure he knows a thing or two about making good decisions, and he uses a simple rule of thumb. For any decision, he asks, is it a big one or a small one? The time and energy he'll spend on it will match how important the decision is. By a big decision, we mean one with a serious outcome on your finances, health, relationships, reputation, or other areas of your life. And also something you can't easily reverse. In other words, after a few days, weeks, or months, can you go backing out of it with no harm done? If you can't, sounds like a big one. So know which kind of decision it is, how much effort you should put into making it, and how much sleep is worth losing over it. And remember, when you're looking for insights into the world of business, fine living, productivity hacks, and life hacks, we've got all of those things covered at Alux. So if you're still not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that button for more quality content every day. Number 3. If it's a small one, don't sweat it. If it isn't a biggie, don't overanalyze it, don't agonize over it, or wear your friends and family down endlessly asking what they would do. Just make the decision, quickly. That way you get more done because you're not sweating the stuff that isn't worth sweating. And sooner or later, big decisions are going to come along, and you don't want to have used up all of your energy on the small ones. Number 4. Be aware of risk. You can't eliminate risk. Living a life that's fulfilling is impossible without it, but you should be aware of it. When people make bad choices, it's often because they took risks they got too comfortable with, like breaking the speed limit and thinking you'll always be fine until you get caught or end up in an accident. You've gotten comfortable dodging taxes, eating unhealthy, cheating on your partner, or one of a million other bad choices. So far, so good, but sooner or later, things will catch up with you. Recognize risk, and when you do take risks, take calculated ones, not dumb ones you forgot were there. Number 5. Balance a worst-case scenario against what you hope to gain. Not exactly rocket science, right? When you're thinking, should I or shouldn't I? Weigh the outcome you'll get if it works out, with the ones you'll be landed with if it doesn't. But here's a useful tip. On the bad side, look at the worst-case scenario and balance that with a medium to positive outcome. Not an amazingly good one, just a good enough one. Be a little pessimistic in your calculations, because it's human nature to do the opposite. We tend to balance the best possible outcome because we're excited, with a medium bad one because we are naive and in denial about the negatives. It's human nature, and it is also how we make rash decisions. Start using the medium outcome versus worst-case scenario, and you'll find yourself making wiser choices. Number 6. Use data. When you're watching a TV documentary about plane crashes, you might be thinking, flying is the worst decision ever, until you look at the data on how safe it is. Or the opposite. You're watching a presentation by a fast-talking salesperson telling you how much money they've made for people who've invested in their shady-looking scheme. Right now, you're feeling pumped about how much money you can make too, if you just put a few K into their account. But without doing your research and looking at some of the hard data, we hope you don't need us to tell you what's likely to happen. If the decision is a big one, do your research and use the data to look at it in the most objective way possible. Number 7. Look at the problem from a different angle. Something else that can help? Frame the data differently. Think about a food wrapper saying it's 90% fat-free. Sounds like a good dietary choice, right? What if you reframe that statement? 10% of it is pure fat. Suddenly, not such a great idea. There isn't necessarily one right way of looking at things, but at least try a few different ways and you'll get a bigger picture and more insight to make your decisions with. Number 8. Trust your gut instincts too. Crunching the data is great when that option is available to you, but sometimes you've got to make decisions on the fly without much information. For times like those, put your gut instincts to work. The great thing about instincts is they're not random. They're a combined result of a huge number of experiences we've gathered over time. They can help us make spur-of-the-moment decisions, like, don't get into that cab, the driver looks shady. Don't sign that contract, something seems off. Or do drop all your plans so you accept a spontaneous invitation because something's telling you it'll be worth it. Number 9. Conquer your fear. The thing about fear and nerves is they can really hold you back from grabbing a great opportunity, like asking somebody on a date or pitching your business idea to a VC. These are limiting emotions, and when they show up, be aware that they're there. Then you can deal with them. You can grit your teeth and force yourself to suggest that date, make that business pitch. It's totally fine to do it scared. Rise above that fear and don't miss out on the opportunity. Number 10. And don't give in to excitement either. Like fear, excitement is another emotion that can send you down the wrong path for the opposite reason. When you're excited or overconfident, it's like being drunk. You're blind to the negatives and just thinking about positives that probably don't even exist. Like fear, you can deal with it once you know it's there. Then you can slow down, take a few deep breaths, and see that betting all that money on red, making that cocky post on social media aren't such great ideas. And just a note on managing your emotions. As entrepreneurs and high achievers, we're dealing with stress and anxiety caused by the pressure of everyday life. 4 out of 5 successful people use some form of meditation practice to handle this kind of pressure. We've spent thousands of hours stripping away all the nonsense to give you the best return on your investment and teach you how to get the same kind of focused results. The feedback from you guys has been amazing so far. Go to Alux.com/mindmastery and enroll now. Number 11. Know when to cut your losses. To put it differently, don't throw good money after bad, or time or effort either. You've been gambling and have lost a ton of money. Some voice is telling you if you just throw some more money in, your luck will change. Not a good voice to listen to. You've put in 3, 5, 10 years into a relationship that isn't working. You can't help but thinking, if I just work harder at it, have another go at changing him or her, I'll turn it around. Look at it objectively. It's unlikely, isn't it? You have to know when you're losing the battle and get out. Cut your losses and know when to walk away. Number 12. Limit your options. Having 100 different options to choose from and a hard drive's worth of information about each one of them has got to be a good thing, right? Well, probably not. The thing is, going over every detail with a fine-tooth comb makes your brain go to mush from information overload. You forget what problem you were trying to solve in the first place. You can't see the wood from the trees. You end up with analysis paralysis, overthinking it so much you simply can't decide. A better way to go about this is to limit the information you're looking at, and limit your options too. Be selective with the information and you'll see things more clearly. Number 13. Stand by your values. All of us sometimes make decisions that don't work out, and sure, it always sucks, but when you went against your values too, that's when you really regret it. Let's look at going with your values. You help out a friend who deserves your help, but you end up losing money or opportunities. At least you know you did the right thing. What about the opposite? You screw somebody over to make a quick buck and get called out because you went against your values. Your reputation suffers, as do your relationships and your self-esteem, as you're beating yourself up about it with your head in the sand. Avoid these situations and simply follow your values. Number 14. Imagine you're giving advice to a friend. This is a visualization technique that can really help. Imagine it isn't you making the decision. Imagine it's a friend, and you're the one giving advice. How would you make that friend see the situation, and what advice would you give them? The great thing about doing this, it takes you out of the equation. That includes removing those limiting emotions. Remember what we said about those? And it makes things more objective because it's from somebody else's perspective, and it saves you from getting tangled up in all of the unnecessary detail. Number 15. Watch out for decision fatigue. This is a thing actually recognized by psychologists. It means when you're tired from making so many small decisions, you're no longer in a state of mind to be making big ones. It's when you've had a hard day at work and you choose to get into an argument with your partner about something unimportant, when de-escalating would have been the wiser choice. When you're tired, be aware that decision fatigue is setting in. Don't try to make big decisions. Back away from conflicts that aren't important, and stay away from situations when you might make a stupid mistake. So, Aluxers, what advice do you have for making good decisions? Share with us and the community in the comments section. And of course, here's your bonus for sticking with us until the end. Learn from mistakes. Yes, we're finishing this one up with an old cliche. And the joke goes, people who make the worst decisions should be geniuses by now with all the mistakes they can learn from. Of course, some people are better at learning from mistakes than others, and people who make the same mistakes again and again, yeah, they need to work on it a bit more. Here's a simple technique you can use to learn from your mistakes. Take a little time out every time to evaluate your decisions, from the past year, week, day, whenever. Think about how they're impacting on you now, for the good or bad. How would they have turned out if you'd done them differently? What other options were available to you? Maybe ones you weren't aware of at the time. Just take a few minutes for it every day, and you'll find that you're becoming more mindful of mistakes you're making, and as a result, you'll start learning a lot more from them.